Welcome and thanks for watching Connecting Hope, presented by the Hamilton County Council on Alcohol and Other Drugs. I'm Will Hampton along with Monica Greer. Just had my birthday a couple days ago.
Yes.
You're about to have yours in a couple of
Yes.
days. Happy birthday, Monica.
Well, happy birthday to you.
Hey, and did you ever think that, last year on your birthday that we'd be about 35 shows into?
I did not.
I didn't
It's
either.
amazing.
Yeah. Hey, this show this week is a little different. We're going to have a special guest, but also one long success story within this show. This guy's name is Alex Valdez. He works at Mockingbird Hill in Anderson. What a great facility that is.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I visited there not too long ago and very impressive.
Yeah. Well, here's Alex. We're going to start with his story of blindness. He has been blind since he was just a little guy. Here's the story of Alex Valdez.
I was born with glaucoma in the left eye, had numerous complications and surgeries in that left eye when I was very young. At the age of 4, the left eye was removed, an artificial eye was put in, and I was able to see with my right eye till the age of 7. And it was a limited amount of vision in the right eye, but enough vision that I was able to go to the first grade and learn how to read and write in large print, and learned my basic colors and things like that. And then the decision was made, I think it was probably, a God decision, but the decision was made between my teachers and my parents that I should probably go back to the first grade again and learn how to read and write in Braille. And that's what I did. And about 3/4 of the way through the first grade, the second time, I suffered a retina detachment. I was outside after school in the yard playing with the guys in the neighborhood, and I got hit in the eye twice. Once playing football, and once boxing in Jimmy Gardia's backyard, and never told my parents. And lo and behold, I got hit in the eye twice, and about a month later, the retina detachment. And that was back in 1961, maybe 61 probably. At that time, there wasn't the surgical procedures and the advancement in medicine that there is today. And there was nothing they could really do. So I've been totally blind since the age of 7. But it all started probably, I can remember my very first taste of alcohol. I was 5 years old, and we were down in, I was born and raised in Southern California. And on long 3-day weekends, my parents and my family, my extended dad, my father's side of the family, we would go down to Ensenada, Mexico, and have a little vacation. And I remember that, and I could still see then. And so I remember that we were sitting poolside, and my dad's older brother, my Uncle Armando, and he was standing at the end of the picnic table there dealing cards, and my dad and my other uncles were there, and they were all playing poker and drinking and just having a great time. And my Uncle Armando had this glass sitting there at the end of the table next to him of chilled tequila with some limes floating in it. And I remember picking up the glass and smelling it. And my Uncle Armando said, go ahead, take a sip. Yeah. And I took a sip, and it tasted great. I loved it. It tasted good. And I put the glass down, and I picked it up again, and my Uncle Armando said, go ahead, have another sip. And I took a little sip, and my dad told me to knock it off. And that was my first taste, And, didn't really pay attention to drugs or alcohol or anything till probably another 6 years later. Yeah. And I think I was 13 and started hanging around with some guys, and one of the guys worked at a liquor store, so, being a box boy, and, so he was able to get alcohol, and, so that kind of started things. And it made me feel bulletproof. When I would take that first drink and that alcohol would start to surge through me, I became invincible. And that's quite something for a blind young man at the age of 13 to become invincible, to feel bulletproof.
So that's just the start of this incredible story that is Alex Valdez. Blind, and then he gets into a lifetime of substance abuse. Incredible.
Yeah, so many challenges. Yeah.
And he goes on to be a stand-up comic that is on national shows. Well, I shouldn't talk. We should let him talk.
Yes,
Let's let
yes,
Alex
let's
talk.
do him.
When we continue on Connecting Hope, we're going to hear the success story, both the bad and the good, of Alex Valdez.
Graduated high school, went on to college, I was a music major in college. Came to the realization that I was an average musician. And this was in the mid-'70s. And I left college, and I didn't know what to do. And a really dear friend of mine, really close friend of mine at the time, he said to me, you ought to be a stand-up comedian. And I said, get out of here. And he said, no, I'm serious. He said, how many blind musicians are there? And I said, okay, all right, I'll give you that. And he goes, how many blind stand-up comedians are there? You can be the first and the only one. And that idea intrigued me. So he said, you know what? I was watching Johnny the other night, Carson, and he said J.J. Walker was on. He was talking about the Comedy Store and how Monday nights, they have open mic night. And, he said, let's go down there and watch and check it out, I'll help you write some material and let's, I'll help you, let's do it. And I said, okay. And on June 6th, 1977, I stepped on stage for the very first time at the Comedy Store in Westwood, California. I stepped on stage to a packed house, did 5 minutes of material, and walked away to a standing ovation. And I went, wow. And the rush, was as addicting as the alcohol became later. I went back the very next Monday and bombed. So, and that was my introduction to stand-up comedy. And, I pursued the career, and in the cities where there were comedy clubs, we were like rock stars, man. Everybody wanted to buy us a drink, and the drinks were free, and that's when it really took off. Because in those first 10 years, the 80s, I was drinking and drugging and and just running and gunning, But at the same time, I was becoming, extremely successful within the industry itself. I hooked up with another comedian in 1984, and we became a comedy team, and we became a very successful comedy team and a damn good comedy team.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're O'Brien and Valdez.
My partner, Jim O'Brien, he's sighted.
Alejandro Valdez, he happens to be blind.
Yeah, but don't worry. No car payments.
And but he was as much of an alcoholic as I was, and so we became the best of drinking buddies.
If you want to know how we met, being an Irishman and a Mexican, it was alcohol related.
1988, I was working a club in St. Louis, and a friend of mine called me up, and she said, "You guys are getting the reputation of being drunks." And at this point in my life, I had already gone through my first divorce. My daughter was 7 years old and was really not a part of my life. My parents knew that I was drinking too much, and I guess everybody else knew. Anyway, this friend of ours, she told us this, and I was insulted. I was insulted that I had gotten the reputation of being a drunk, because a drunk to me was not a person traveling the country and making people laugh and making good money. And I had just started dating this woman, and I was very much in love with this woman. And I told myself, you know what? I'm going to show these people. And I quit drinking for 11 months. Quit drinking. Just quit. And then, so for 11 months, I didn't drink. And then it was August of the following year, and we were up on the sun deck, and I said to myself, I haven't drank in 11 months. I'm not a drunk. I'm not an alcoholic. I'm going to have a beer. And I had a beer, just one. And a couple of days later, I had two. And 3 weeks later, I was back to exactly where I left off. Finally, in the beginning of February of 1991, this wonderful woman had enough courage to walk out of a completely dysfunctional relationship. And she had given me the signs, All good alcoholics, we all get signs. We all get them. Just depends if how much, which ones we really pay attention to. 3 months before, she had changed her phone number without telling me. And I remember after she got home from work, I called her house and said, got that recording that said this number the number has been changed and there's no new number. So the next morning I called her at work and said, "Hey, what happened? They said your number's been changed." She goes, "Yeah, I changed my number, and I'm not going to give it to you until you promise you'll go to an AA meeting." Well, all good alcoholics, we will do anything, when our back's against the wall. And I said, "Sure, yeah, okay." So she found the meeting, and I went to that meeting, and I snuck in the back and sat down in the back row and hoped that nobody would see me. And, this was in North Hollywood, so, it's around all the industry area and people. And I remember I sat down, and this guy came over and sat down next to me. And he said, "Been waiting for you to get here." And it was a guy named Kenny Bob Davis. And Kenny, Bob, and I used to drink hard on the road and play hard, and he had gotten sober. And he told me about it. But I didn't hear it, and I didn't hear her. And like I said, 3 months later, she had the courage to walk out.
Wow. I mean, that's about all you can say about Alex. And that's just part of the story. It's a long look into the lifetime of substance abuse that led him down so many different paths.
Yeah.
And it's really not that rare. He's a story, while he is blind, that makes him unique. But so many of these success stories are the same, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
They're different, but the same.
Yeah, and I think that that's why their community, their recovery community is so strong, because they do have that connection.
Yeah. When we come back, we're going to hear the tail end, where he is now, to Alex Valdez, when we continue on Connecting Hope. Welcome back to Connecting Hope, presented by the Hamilton County Council on Alcohol and Other Drugs. Will Hampton with Monica Greer. And I hope everyone's enjoying the story of Alex Valdez. And now we're going to get to the point where he finds the turning point that gets him to where he is today.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, he's just a really good man. And he struck me, and again, thanks to Daryl Mitchell
Yeah.
for introducing me to Alex.
Yeah.
But let's close this story with the success story of Alex Valdez.
And a friend of mine said, you know what, man? I know we're both ex-Catholics, but you know, this coming Wednesday's Ash Wednesday and Lent starts. He said, I'm going to quit drinking for 40 days. He said, why don't you quit with me? And I had just come off a 10-day bender after, you know, she had walked out, of just, you know, waking up in the morning, drinking all day, drinking all night, just, you know. And I said, okay. And so that started my path of sobriety. And a friend of mine from the West Coast, I was talking to her on the phone and crying and whining and she said, do me a favor. And I said, what? She goes, promise me that you'll do this. And I said, okay. And she said, whatever it takes, I don't care how much money, I don't care, whatever it takes. She said, go to an AA meeting tomorrow. I said, okay. So I found a noon meeting at this place called the Fiesta Club in Jacksonville, Florida. And I walked in about a half an hour before the noon meeting. I got a cab there. And after that meeting, this guy walked up to me and he said, hey, he said, my name's Mike Carey. I've seen you on TV. He said, I think you're very funny. He said, this is my business card. He said, if you want to go to any more meetings, give me a call. And this was on a Wednesday. And I called that guy, Mike, and he took me to the meeting on Thursday, and he took me to the meeting on Friday, and he took me to this great meeting Saturday morning. And then he said, hey, tomorrow before your show, he said, I'm going to pick you up and I'm going to take you to a newcomers meeting on the beach. And I said, okay. And so he picked me up and we went to this meeting. And in that meeting, I had what is known in the fellowship and the 12 steps as a profound spiritual awakening. And for me, it was profound. This physical feeling, literally this physical feeling came over me. And this feeling of euphoria and this feeling, I felt like I was floating. And I could hear the waves on the beach. And it was right then and there that I knew that the fellowship and the 12-step program could save my life. And it did. And I haven't, and ever since February 13th, 1991, I haven't had to pick up another drink or a drug. Was it easy? No. But today, after 30 years, and by the grace of God and by those 12 steps in that fellowship, I do understand. And now in my life, I'm at the point where Aspire, Indiana has given me the opportunity to work at their new residential recovery center, Mockingbird Hill. And they have given me the opportunity to give back daily what I was given freely 30 years ago.
So there you go. And I hope you've enjoyed this kind of different look at Connecting Hope. Alex is an incredible story. I know I'd love to see his stand-up comic routine. I bet
Yeah.
he's really, really good.
Yeah, we're going to have to look that up and share that with the group.
And like
yeah.
I said, he's at Mockingbird Hill now.
Yeah.
And he is a guy who helps others. And I imagine he's very good at that too.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we did it this way.
Yeah, a little different.
Yeah.
All
Didn't
right.
have to cut anything out.
No, we didn't. Let's take a break.
Okay.
And when we come back, we'll close out this edition of Connecting Hope. Thank you so much for watching Connecting Hope. Will Hampton with Monica Greer, and we've had a kind of a different look, a different glance this week with Alex Valdez. But tell us about a little bit what's going on with you and the Youth Service Awards,
Yeah.
which are just around the corner, right?
Yeah, we have had Youth Service Awards for many years, and it's the schools in Hamilton County, they select a winner, a senior winner that represents their school, and we have an award ceremony coming up on May 24th, and we just like to recognize them, and then the overall winner receives a $1,000 scholarship.
So it's just for service, things they've done in the community? And
Service, if substance abuse has, been a factor in their life in some way with a family member, it can be anything. Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing those awards.
Thank you.
All right. And happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a break, the end of the show break, because we are done for the night, and we do appreciate you watching. Thanks.